السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. For the brothers who don't understand Arabic, these words that we say, this is the tradition of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He used, before he start anything important, to seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ask him for help and guidance, ask him for forgiveness, and ask him for protection from our own ill deeds and from the misguidance of shaitan, knowing that Allah is the one who guides. Whoever Allah let them go astray, nobody can guide. نتابع القراءة في كتاب الأدب المفرد للإمام البخاري رحمه الله. باب من أدرك والديه فلم يدخل الجنة. حدثنا خالد بن مخلد حدثنا سليمان بن بلال حدثنا سهيل عن أبيه عن أبي هريرة عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: رغم أنفه رغم أنفه رغم أنفه. قالوا: يا رسول الله من؟ قال: من أدرك والديه عنده الكبر أو أحدهما فدخل النار. This is a chapter about how if somebody has his parents, one or both of them, living with him when they get older. In this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said that in Arabic, رغم أنفه, that somebody's nose will be rubbed in dirt. That means he's going to be a loser. He said it 3 times. And they asked, who is it, Ya Rasulullah? I say, whoever his parents, both of them or one of them, reach the age of being elder, and he does not go to Jannah, he goes to hellfire. That is, as we read before, being dutiful to the parents is a way, as a gate to heaven, to Jannah, to paradise. So whoever had that chance and misses it, that means he's not going to have any other chance. Somebody who doesn't respect his parents, unlikely he's going to be good to his wife, to his children, to his family, to his friends, to his co-workers, to his community, and so on. I just tell you the character of this person. Such a person, if he's not good to his parents, he's not going to be doing good actions that will lead him into Jannah. باب من بر والده زاد الله في عمره. The chapter about who is dutiful to his parents, Allah will increase in his age. حدثنا أصبع بن الفرج قال: أخبرني ابن وهب عن يحيى بن أيوب عن زبان بن فائد عن سهل بن معاذ عن أبيه قال: قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: من بر والده طوبى له زاد الله عز وجل في عمره. In this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ says, whoever is dutiful to his parents, then he will be blessed. Allah will increase his age. That is, when we talk about the destiny, when Allah creates any creature, He will right away send the angel when that baby reaches the age of 120, when the soul will be given to that baby. And it will be given how long that person will live, what kind of deed this person will do. Is he going to end up being a happy person in Jannah or a miserable person in hellfire? How much sustenance he's going to get. So this is written. However, there is qadar that only Allah knows, في اللوح المحفوظ, that the angels don't know. So the ones the angels know are this, and it can increase, it can change, but the ones in the lawh al-mahfuz, in the protected script, that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the first thing when He created the pen, and He ordered it to write everything that will be, and He kept it in lawh al-mahfuz, in the protected script. That one, nothing changes in it. then he would write, reveal from it temporal destinies where the angels know about. These kind of destinies, the temporal ones, can change with the rules of Allah that put it. So if somebody make dua, if it was written for him, something bad will happen to him, he's kind, he's done charity, he's good to his parents, that can be removed from him. He was destined to live, to know he's going to live a certain age, and he's dutiful to his parents, then his age can be increased. So all by the will of Allah. So one of the reasons for a person that his age will be higher, in another hadith, even his sustenance to be good, is to be dutiful to the parents and silat al-raham, and be kind and keep the ties of the kinship. So that means to his grandparents, his uncles, his cousins, and so on, to the rest of the family. باب لا يستغفر لأبيه المشرك. إذن هنا المؤلف يتابع أن كل هذا بر الوالدين، لكن إذا كان الأب مشركا لا يستغفر له. حدثنا إسحاق قال أخبرني علي بن الحسين حدثني أبي عن يزيد النحوي عن عكرمة عن ابن عباس في قوله تعالى: إما يبلغن عندك الكبر أحدهما أو كلاهما فلا تقل لهما أف إلى قوله كما ربياني صغيرا، فنسختها الآية التي في براءة: ما كان للنبي والذين آمنوا أن يستغفروا للمشركين ولو كانوا أولي قربى من بعد ما تبين لهم أنهم أصحاب الجحيم. النسخ عند المتقدمين عند السلف الصالح يعني تقييد المعنى وليس إلغاء المعنى. فالآية الأولى: وقضى ربك ألا تعبدوا إلا إياه وبالوالدين إحسانا. إذن الآية الأخرى قيدت هذا المعنى، الإحسان مقيد إلا في الاستغفار، إذا كانوا مشركين فلا يجوز الاستغفار له. هذا المقصود بالنسخ. When the ayah was revealed about how important one will be dutiful to his parents, that when Allah has decreed you only worship Allah and you will be kind and dutiful to your parents, a lot of people meant always in any circumstance. And then came the ayah in Surah Bara'ah that it is not allowed for the Prophet and for the believers to ask forgiveness to their parents if they are not believers in Allah. They associate partners of Allah, deny Allah. Then it is not permissible to make istighfar, asking forgiveness for it. So the word that is used, nasakh, in Arabic means a lot of times to cancel something. But in particular here, it means to clarify and to narrow down a meaning, where being good to your parents is a very general meaning. That means all the time, whatever they tell you, you do. But we have ayat tells you if they order you to disobey Allah, you don't do it. And this ayah says you cannot ask forgiveness for a parent that is an unbeliever in Allah, is not Muslim. باب بر الوالد المشرك. So the next chapter, the author talks about how we deal with a parent who is a non-Muslim. حدثنا محمد بن يوسف حدثنا إسرائيل حدثنا سماك عن مصعب بن سعد عن أبي سعد بن أبي وقاص قال: نزلت في 4 آيات من كتاب الله تعالى. سعد بن وقاص من العشر المبشرين في الجنة، وكان من أهل الشورى الذين اختارهم عمر رضي الله عنه ليكون أهلا للخلافة. فقال: 4 آيات من كتاب الله نزلت فيه. كانت أمي حلفت أن لا تأكل ولا تشرب حتى أفارق محمدا صلى الله عليه وسلم، فأنزل الله تعالى: وإن جاهداك على أن تشرك بي ما ليس لك به علم فلا تطعهما وصاحبهما في الدنيا معروفا. So in this hadith, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, he was one of the early Sahaba, and he was one of the 10 people who were given glad tidings of Jannah by the Prophet ﷺ, being such good people. and he was one of the 6 people that Umar has chosen to elect one of them as a successor when he was dying. So he was a good person, and he was saying that there are 4 ayat in Quran was revealed in incidents connecting to him. The first one, when he became a Muslim, his mother was not. And she said, your religion orders you to obey me and to be kind to me. If you don't leave that religion, I will not eat or drink until you obey me. So she's trying to blackmail him, some kind of emotional blackmail. So Allah has revealed this ayah, and if they try their hard that you disbelieve in Allah, associate partners with Him, then you would not obey them, but you still be kind to them in this life. So this was the first one. والثانية أني كنت أخذت سيفا أعجبني فقلت يا رسول الله هب لي هذا فنزلت يسألونك عن الأنفال قل الأنفال لله والرسول إذا جاءت الآية التي تشرح فيه غنائم الحرب وكيف تقسم. And the second ayah, when after a battle the Muslims, part of their winnings, they had a sword that Sa'd ibn Waqqas he liked. So he asked Rasulullah, give it to me, gift it to me. So Allah revealed the ayah when they ask you about the benefits of the war, the booties of war. Then you tell them it is for Allah and His Messenger. And then it goes into details how splitting it will be. 4/5 will be for the fighter, 1/5 will go to the general treasury of the Muslims, and it's up to the leader of the army deciding who gets what. والثالثة أني مرضت فأتاني رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فقلت يا رسول الله إني أريد أن أقسم مالي أفأوصي بالنصف قال لا فقلت الثلث فسكت فكان الثلث بعده جائزة. إذا أراد أن يوصي بنصف ما سمح له رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. الثلث سكت عنه كأنه سمح به، لكن في حديث آخر غير الصحابة والثلث كثير، الأصل أن يوصي الإنسان أقل من الثلث. And then the third incident, when he wanted to leave a will after him, he asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, I'm gonna write a will where half of my money, gonna go for charity. Rasulullah said, no, that's too much. He said, how about 1/3? So Rasulullah kept quiet. That means was permissible. In another hadith, another Sahabi asked him, Rasulullah, he said, 1/3 is allowed and it's still too much. That is better that when you leave something in a will, you leave most of it to your family. The best charity is the charity you give while you're alive and healthy and hoping to live long and you need the money. Not when you're about to die and I want to leave something behind. Okay, give this amount of money to a school, to an orphanage, and something like this. It's permissible, but it should be limited. Your family has more rights that they need to live comfortably after you. والرابعة أني شربت الخمر مع قوم من الأنصار فضرب رجل منه أنفي بلحيي جمل فأتيت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فأنزل الله تعالى تحريم الخمر. And the fourth incident, before alcohol was prohibited, he was drinking alcohol with a group of people of Medina al-Ansar, and they started arguing, and one of them being drunk, he hit him with the jawbone of a camel, big hefty bone. So when he told that to Rasulullah ﷺ, Allah has revealed the ayah forbidding alcohol. We know when it came forbidding the alcohol, it came into stages. It was very common at that time. The people of Mecca and Medina and in the desert, they ferment different types of fruits and change it into alcohol. So the known grapes, they get wine from it, or they get the dates, they get the raisins, they get barley, they get whatever their hands on, fermented, and then when they have enough alcohol, they drink it. So that was common. A lot of people done it. So the first ayah was revealed that one should not pray when he's drunk. so you can understand what he's saying. Otherwise, he will be asking Allah for heaven, he might ask him for hell, something like this. So that means it limited the times that they're allowed to drink, because you have 5 prayers. That means they're going to be drinking late at night and small amounts, so they'll be sober next day. Then the second ayah was revealed when they asked him about wine and gambling. And it says that there is benefit in them, but the harm much bigger than the benefit. And the benefit that comes from the alcohol at that time, that a lot of people, when they drink, they become generous, and they start feeding the poor and needy. They might slaughter a sheep or a camel and give it to everybody around them. But there's so much harm of it, where people get drunk and they can start committing all kind of sins. And then the third ayah that was revealed, that gambling and alcohol is a sin, it's an evil from shaitan, and the believers should abstain from it. And at that time, all the believers stopped. People in Medina that used to store alcohol in jars, they all spilled it on the streets and started running like streams in the street. They got rid of it. So that was one of the incidents why this was forbidden. Him being a good person, but because it was socially acceptable to sit and drink, start fighting with somebody, and somebody hit him with that. He could have killed him. The jaw of the camel is a little bit hefty, can be sharp, and can be dangerous. So here in this matter, the first one that relates to his mother asking him to leave the religion, when the ayah was revealed, and if your parents tried hard for you to associate partners of Allah, you don't obey them in this, but you still be kind to them in this life.
Sheikh,
Yeah.
I have a question regarding the previous hadith. So we're not allowed to ask Allah to forgive our parents if they're not Muslims.
Yes.
But we are allowed to ask them to guide them and
Yes.
like open their heart.
Yeah. So if they're alive, yeah, you have more room, because you really want them to be guided. Ask Allah to open their hearts to the truth, that they'll accept Islam, they'll die in the state of Islam, so they can go to Jannah and so on. But if they're already dead, you cannot ask for forgiveness with them. They missed their chance. وحدثنا الحميدي حدثنا ابن عيينة حدثنا هشام بن عروة قال أخبرني أبي. مين أبي؟ لا هشام بن عروة، عروة بن الزبير، يكون ابن أختي عائشة. الزبير بن عوام كان زوجا لأسماء أخت عائشة، فعروة بن الزبير عائشة تكون خالته. فإذا هشام بن عروة حدث عن أبيه عروة قال أخبرتني أسماء بنت أبي بكر، أي عروة، قالت أتتني أمي راغبة في عهد النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم، أي أتت في العهد الذي كان بين رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وبين قريش وهي كافرة، فسألتني فسألت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أصلها؟ قال نعم. فأنزل الله تعالى لا ينهاكم الله عن الذين لم يقاتلوكم في الدين ولم يظاهروا على إخراجكم أن تبروهم وتقسطوا إليهم إن الله يحب المقسطين. So here Asma bint Abi Bakr, when she immigrated to Medina with her father Abu Bakr, her mother was not a Muslim at that time. She stayed in Mecca. And then when there was the truce between the Muslims and the Kafir, Sulh al-Hudaybiyah, they were allowed to visit one another because there was peace during that time. So she visited her daughter, and she wanted to come and visit her. So Asma was kind of conflicted. How much kindness should she show to her mother, being a non-believer? So she asked Rasulullah ﷺ, should she be kind and generous to her mother? He said yes. And then Allah has revealed the ayah to the meaning of Allah doesn't prohibit you from being kind and just to those who are not fighting you over your religion, or they're not harming you or assisting other people to harm you. حدثنا موسى حدثنا عبد العزيز بن مسلم عن عبد الله بن دينار قال سمعت ابن عمر يقول رأى عمر رضي الله عنه حلة سيراء تباع. هذه نوع من الحلل فيها من الحرير، رآها تباع فقال يا رسول الله ابتع هذه فالبسها يوم الجمعة وإذا جاءك الوفود. قال إنما يلبس هذه من لا خلاق له. الحرير محرم على الرجال. In this hadith, Ibn Umar رضي الله عنه, he said about his father Umar, he once was with Rasulullah ﷺ, he found a piece of garment that looks really nice, but it has a lot of silk in it, and silk is prohibited for men to wear silk. Umar didn't know at that time it was prohibited, but it looked nice, so he asked Rasulullah ﷺ to buy it. So when he have people coming from outside representing their people, he will be dressed handsomely in front of them. Rasulullah ﷺ says people who wear this are people that have no faith or character. That means it's prohibited for men to wear it. فأتي النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم منها بحلل فأرسل إلى عمر بحلة. And then it happened, Rasulullah ﷺ was gifted something like it. So he sent a piece of it to Umar. And Umar didn't understand. Say, how would I wear it? And you told us this is for people who have no faith or character. He said, I didn't give it to you to wear it. You can sell it or you can gift it. Women can wear it. Non-Muslims can wear it. It can still has value, although it's prohibited for men. So there are other people who are permissible for him to wear. We can gift it. So what he did Umar, he sent it to a brother of him in Mecca, and he was not a Muslim. فأرسل بها عمر إلى أخ له من أهل مكة قبل أن يسلم. إذن هذه الأمور وإن كان محرم على المسلمين لم يحرم بيعها وشراؤها لغير المسلمين، غير الخمر والخنزير. الخمر والخنزير محرم بيعها وشراؤها. أما الحرير لأن منه جائز ومنه غير جائز، لا يجوز أن يشتريها المسلم الرجل لنفسه، يشتريها لزوجه أو لغير المسلم جاز ذلك والله أعلم. So in this hadith, it was allowed to gift a non-Muslim. Umar, his brother was non-Muslim. He was living in Mecca. And while that piece of garment that has silk was prohibited for Muslim men, it was not prohibited for non-Muslim. So he sent it as a gift to his brother. So this is different from wine and pork. Swine and alcohol is prohibited to buy and sell, whether it's for Muslims or non-Muslims. But things like gold and silk is prohibited for men to wear, but women can wear it and non-Muslims can wear it. If somebody is a jeweler and a Muslim want to buy a golden ring to him, that's not allowed. If a non-Muslim want to buy a golden ring, that's up to him. A woman wants to buy a golden piece, that's up to her. He can sell it.
Sheikh, what about the with that one? من تشبه لقوم من تشبه من الرجال النساء ومن النساء للرجال يعني لعنهم الأسماء. So that one is not tashbih for the non-Muslim if they were in the harir يعني.
No, because non-Muslims wear harir. Muslims don't.
Yeah, I know, but the hadith is, for example, يعني the woman, the من تشبه من الرجال.
No. So
this one is for the only for the Muslim or?
So
non-Muslims do this hadith.
yeah, so men are not allowed to dress like women. Women are not allowed to dress like men. However, the same piece of garment, men and women wear it in a different way. So the same, because at that time most of them has loose clothes, they wrap it around. The way the men wrap it is different from the men wrapping it. Plus, when the women they wrap it, they're supposed to wear abaya, hijab on top of it. So that colorful, nice dress they wear, this is for their family. When they go out in the street, they have something dark, non-revealing, they wear on top of it. So the same garment, they wore it in a different way. And there was sometimes when Rasulullah tell a Sahabi that he wanted to gift his garment to his bride as a gift, and so on. So just the piece itself is allowed, but the way it is dressed, the way the people wear it is different. So that will bring us to the wearing. We know for women that whatever they wear in front of her husband, she can wear whatever she wants. In front of her first degree relatives, her father, her brother, and her sons, her uncles, the ones are muhram, she's not allowed to marry. She's allowed to show something, but still the areas where usually jewelry is worn by Muslim women. So from the neck up, they used to have some golden pieces around their arms, forearms, or bracelet. That means from the forearm down they're allowed. They had anklets, so the lower part of the legs is okay. But anything above the knee or below the breast is forbidden, that she showed that in front of her children, her father, or her brothers. So this is in private for muhram. When she goes out in front of people in the streets and so on, the outer part she wearing should not be revealing, it should not be transparent, should not be tight, should not be a seduction by itself, so much decorated, a lot of patterns in it that attract attention, should not have perfume that wherever she goes people can smell and attract attention, and should not resemble those who are known to be bad women or different faith. So she cannot wear the clothes of Buddhists or Hindus or nuns or stuff like this. So she shouldn't resemble non-pious people, should not resemble non-Muslims. When a cloth is only known, if she wears a way that nuns, when people look at her, know that this is a nun. The wearing of the nun is very close to the wearing of Muslim women, but it's not the same. If you put a nun and a Muslim woman, yes, it's long, it's revealing, it can cover the head, but it's different. So she shouldn't intentionally make it as a nun. So that's in general for women. For men, there is minimum and there's preference. Minimum should cover between their belly button and the knee. This is minimum. But it is better to be appropriate for the situation they're in. In Salah, they're supposed to wear something to cover up the upper part. Although it's allowed, they can pray without it. But in front of Allah, if they have something to cover up, they have a shirt, they have an upper garment, then they should wear that upper garment. And when they're praying, they should wear something nice. So if you're playing soccer, that's not the same clothes that you will be praying with. If you are working in mud or painting or whatever, when you pray, you have something that's more decent. And shouldn't have silk in it in large amounts. Small amount, sometimes few lines of silk in it, it is permissible. A lot of ulama say if it's less than 2 finger width, it's allowed. So sometimes the sims or the hem of the cloth has some silk in it, but not like silk neckties, because that's a whole piece of garment that's purely made of silk. And should not resemble, again, for them, people who are not pious. Should not wear something that gangsters and drug addicts or people that are known to be non-obedient to Allah wear it. Should not resemble the people of other faith, that they will be mistaken for them. and should not be a way of distinguishing themselves over others, that they're better than others. It's not a show-off, it should be. Yes, it should be nice, zina, it should be give them a good appearance, but to the degree not to be a reason for arrogance. That's why it shouldn't be too long, that dragging on the ground. It shouldn't go below their ankles, where especially the loose type of garments, like what I'm wearing here, the thobe or the izar and so on, it's prohibited that one make it long below the ankles. At that time, only the wealthy people did that, because it was a sign that the wealthy, they don't care, get spoiled, they can afford another one. Poor people kept it up so it doesn't get dirty, and rich people dragged it around as being arrogant. Women are encouraged to have it long, so they cover their feet. When they're walking, their feet wouldn't expose. A lot of time, the women in hot climate, they would not wear socks or even shoes, or they wear maybe sandals, not a fully covering shoes, so that their feet would not be showing, that their clothes should be long enough to cover it. This is the general minimum description of the appropriate dress for men and for women. Now,
coming back to the idea that we're allowed to sell silk and gold for non-Muslims and women, would that apply also to, for example, Christmas pullovers or?
Yeah. So anything that encourages the false practices of other people, you're not allowed. So you're not allowed to sell crosses or any symbol of any other religion. You're not allowed to do that. And Christmas is part of it, yes.
Yeah, I do have a follow-up question on Brother Amr. So, if somebody is working at Walmart or any other place that sells multiple things, not just the Christmas trees or whatever, and he is like a cashier, is this haram or not?
So the two things that is haram to sell for him is alcohol and wine. He shouldn't be involved in that. The rest of it is not his store. If it is his store, he shouldn't bring these items in. He doesn't have a choice which items are sold in the store. But the ones he's not supposed to handle is wine and pork. Rest of it, living in a Muslim country, they will have something that's have these symbols on it. So there's no way that you can avoid that. But if it is your store, you don't bring it in. You're trying to be wasatiyya. So you're trying to be adherent to your religion, but not to make it too hard that a person will be totally isolated. So you don't want to get diluted and melted, and at the same time you don't want to be isolated, you're totally out. So you're keeping your faith, you keep the practices. The ones that are totally prohibited, you don't practice it. The ones that up to people, they can do whatever they want with their stuff. I was thinking to read a book that talks about the different sects in Islam and what's their relation to the correct belief, how close or far away from Islam. We talked a little bit about the disturbances that happened after the Prophet ﷺ has died, and we touched a little bit about the reasons for these differences. And we tried to emphasize a point that the differences that happened was first not intentional. The knowledgeable people among the Sahaba, the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, never intended to have a fight. They never intended to disagree. But we said that there were some ignorant and rebellious adventurers that took advantage of the kindness of the Sahaba, and they killed Uthman. And then they started stirring up problems with the rest of the Sahaba and caused a lot of fighting happening. Historically, that was a tough historic time. It should have left there. It was a historic time. Allah will judge the ones who are right or wrong. We believe that all the Sahaba, none of them intended harm. Some of them were 100% right, some of them were partially right. They intended good, but not all their actions was the correct thing. We're not the ones to judge them. It should have finished there. But unfortunately, you see some sects will carry these historic mishaps. They want to carry it till nowadays and hold the people of Islam, the people of Sunnah wal Jama'ah responsible for mistakes that happened 1400 years ago. And that's totally wrong. Whatever killing to any Muslim at any time, nobody should be happy with. Whoever kill a Muslim or happy with a Muslim being killed is as if somebody who's partly responsible for his killing. So you would not find any reasonable, knowledgeable person of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah will be happy with the killing of any of the Sahaba, regardless on which side of the argument they had at that time. There are a lot of books that talks about الفرق المعاصرة, الطوائف والمذاهب وغير ذلك. There's a lot of books that talk about this. One of these books was written by a contemporary. His name is Ghalib bin Ali Awaji. The book that he wrote, this was his third edition, that was in 1417 Hijri. Now we are 1444, 45 Hijri. So that's about like 30 years ago was written the book. So he starts first by establishing what is the correct methodology of faith and practice of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. And talking about the characters of the correct group that will be saved from all these differences. Alamat wa simat al-firqa al-najiyah. And then mentioning about the famous leaders of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, what books they've written in Aqidah and faith. And then talking about the different sects that separated from Islam, starting with the Khawarij, with the rebellions, and then with other groups. We know that there is an authentic hadith where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam have said that the Jews have separated into 70 groups, all of them in hellfire. The Christians separated in 72 groups, all of them in hellfire. The Muslims will separate into 73 groups, all of them in hellfire except one. And the Sahaba asked, which one is it? He said, the ones who are following what I and my companions are doing right now at his time. So this is what people use, al-firqa al-najiyah, the saved sect. So that's one sect. A lot of the ulama say the numbers is not for exclusivity. You say, oh, Jews only have 70 sects and Christians have 71 sects. Just telling you about the numerous. So you'll have more sects in Christianity than you have in Judaism. And Muslims will have even more sects than either Christianity and Judaism. But the danger here that Judaism and Christianity, they lost their original teachings. They don't know what's the original teaching of Musa, what's the original teaching of Jesus. And whenever they had books nowadays, they don't know who wrote it and was translated from a language to a language to a language. So the original teaching there, it's mixed truth with falsehood. So you cannot know what is right. You cannot follow the original teaching of these prominent prophets and messengers. But Islam, the original teaching of the Prophet ﷺ, is saved. We have the Quran that is saved. We have the tradition, the saying of the Prophet ﷺ is saved. The way his companions understood it and practiced it, and the knowledgeable people after them is saved, and we know it and we can follow it, and there will still be people following it. And the Prophet ﷺ telling us that they will never stop existing. They'll always be in every time. Sometimes their voice can be heard and people know it. Sometimes their voice is lower because you have their enemies, people of innovation, suppressing their voice, but it will never go away. ففرقة السلف أهل السنة والجماعة هم الفرقة الناجية والطائفة المنصورة وهم خير الفرق وأزكاها ولا تقارن بهم أي فرقة أخرى مهما بلغت في انتسابها إلى الكتاب والسنة. So the best and the correct way of following the Prophet ﷺ is the way of the early generations of Muslims that followed them. These are called the Salaf, the early generation. The Prophet ﷺ have said, خيركم قرني ثم الذين يلونهم ثم الذين يلونهم. The best among you as a Muslim ummah is my contemporary. Then those who follow them, then those who follow them. The first three generations, they're very close to the original pure spring of knowledge and understanding and practice of this religion. And their way of understanding and approaching the issues of Islam, difficulties dealing with friends and enemies, is the correct way. People should learn from it and follow it. أسماء هذه الطائفة وألقابها. So the mainstream Islam, it could be called Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, the people of Sunnah, of following the tradition of Rasulullah sallam. Al Jama'ah, the one the close to the group of Muslim. As-Salaf al-Salih, the early predecessors, the good predecessors. Al-Furqatu al-Najiyah, the saved sect. Ahlul Hadith wa Sunnah, the people who follow the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his saying and his teaching. Ahlul Athar, the people who follow the known proof in everything. Al-Ta'ifa al-Mansura, the supported sect. معنى السنة في اللغة هي الطريقة أو الطرق الواضحة. Sunnah in Arabic means a road, a very clear road, or a very clear way. So it could be literal road in the ground, or a way that one follows, a way of living. وقد جاء في الحديث من سن في الإسلام سنة حسنة فله أجرها وأجر من عمل بها بعده من غير أن ينقص من أجورهم شيء. In the hadith, that whoever starts a way, sunnah, hasana, a good way, then he will be rewarded for it, and for everybody that follows him into it without decreasing their reward. وتطلق تسمية السنة على كل ما جاء عن المصطفى صلى الله عليه وسلم من أقواله وأفعاله وتقريراته ويطلق على المتمسكين بها أهل السنة. So in Sunnah, what it means when we talk about it is anything that relates to the way of the Prophet ﷺ. Things that he said, things that he did, or things that happened around his time and he approved it. So that will be considered his way. If one Sahabi did something, Rasulullah ﷺ heard about it, and he didn't disapprove it, then it's considered Sunnah. And people who follow that way is considered people of Sunnah, Ahlus Sunnah. وعند العلماء من يقصد بالسنة على الإطلاق كل ما جاء عن الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم، ومنهم من يقصد بالسنة السنن المستحبة أو الجائزة. The mixing, sometimes people don't understand the linguistic. When something is considered sunnah from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this sunnah could be either a must sunnah wajiba, or could be sunnah mustahabba, an encouraged sunnah, where you can do it or not. If you do it, you'll be rewarded. Or if you don't do it, you will not going to be punished. Like after praying the prayer we had Isha, if you want to pray extra 2 ruk'ah, this is sunnah mustahabba. But some people just say sunnah. And there is sunnah jaiza, where it is permissible to have certain kind of food, certain type of dress, and so on. You're not rewarded, you're not punished for doing it. So a lot of times when people, let's say, growing the beard, they say, oh, this is sunnah. It is sunnah wajiba, not sunnah mustahabba. It doesn't mean it's up to you. If you do it, you get rewarded. If you don't do it, there's no punishment. It's sunnah wajiba because Rasulullah has ordered the Muslims to grow the beard and trim their mustache. So this is sunnah wajiba. معنى الجماعة تطلق الجماعة على الطائفة أو الفرق أو الأمة الذين يرتبطون بمنهج واحد وهدف واحد ولم يتفرقوا عن الاعتقاد والسلوك في الاعتقاد والسلوك. So جماعة means the group that are come together in one belief, in one goal, in one practice. وتطلق تسمية أهل السنة والجماعة على السلف الصالح من الصحابة وأتباعهم إلى يوم الدين. So أهل السنة والجماعة are the people who follow the way of Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم and the way of the Sahaba and their followers and everybody that follow their footsteps till the end of times. ولا يشترط بالجماعة أن يكونوا هم السواد الأعظم، فالكثرة ليست دائما على الحق، كقوله تعالى وأن تطع أكثر من في الأرض يضلوك. And being the jama'ah, the group, doesn't mean it has to be the largest in number, because the Prophet ﷺ was told by Allah, if you obey most people, they will lead you astray. So it doesn't have to be the majority. You follow the ones who have the knowledge and practice. These are the jama'ah. So at sometimes there might be a minority. You have a lot of people of innovation and deviation around them. If somebody living in Iran, where the majority of them are Shia, Jama'ah in Iran is not the Shia. The Ahlul Sunnah in Iran, they are the ones who are Ahlul Jama'ah. Before the Khomeini revolution, more than 40% of people of Iran were Ahlul Sunnah. And then after Khomeini came, he killed most of their ulama, or expelled them and suppressed them. Where in Tehran, where there is more than 1 million Sunni Muslims there, they wouldn't allow them to have even one single masjid to pray Jumu'ah in it. So you cannot say for people of Iran, your Jama'ah is Al-Khomeini and his people. So the number isn't what it says, it's the number of the Sahaba and the people of knowledge. فهم العلماء المجتهدون في كل عصر يدخل فيهم، وهم خصوص الصحابة رضوان الله عليهم ومن تبعهم، لقوله من كان على مثل ما أنا عليه اليوم وأصحابي. So they are the ones who follow the Sahaba, who follows the way of the Sahaba, of the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. والسلف في اللغة هم آباؤه المتقدمون، والجمع أسلاف وسلاف كقوله تعالى فجعلناهم سلفا ومثلا للآخرين وقوله تعالى فله ما سلف وقوله إلا ما قد سلف. Salaf in Arabic means things that happened before. And when we talk about people, predecessors, so about parents and grandparents, people who came before him. والسلف الصالح هم القدوة في هذا الدين وهم أهل الصحابة والتابعون وتابعوا التابعين ومن تبع منهاجهم. So it means the Salaf al-Salih, the good predecessors, are the ones that the Prophet ﷺ has praised. They are his contemporary, the Sahaba, the companions, those who follow them, Tabi'een, and those who learn from them, Tabi'een. So these are three generations are considered Salaf al-Salih. وأهل الحديث لا يقصر على من عمل بسماعه وكتابته وروايته لكن على كل من اتبع حديث رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. I would say that these are the people of hadith. Doesn't mean they are the scholars that memorize it and write it. They're the people who understand it and follow it and practice it. And what is important is not the name. What is important is the practice. So you see a lot of people claiming they're following the Salaf al-Salih, and then you find a lot of the Khawarij claiming that they're Salafiyin. So just having a name doesn't mean anything. It's the practice. Do they really follow the way of the companions and the early three generations? Then there are people of Salaf. If they don't, they're not. You might find them extremists, terrorists, and they're just claiming they're following the way of the Salaf. والفرقة الناجية هم الذين وصفهم رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم تركتكم على المحجة البيضاء لا يزيغ عنها إلا هالك. أي الناجي هو الذي اتبع هذا الطريق الأبيض سنة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فهو ينجو ومن حاد عن ذلك هلك. Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم, he described that I left you on clean white level. The only person that get led astray from it is somebody who's doomed. So the one who survived, the ones who follow the clear white path that Rasulullah has left behind in the teaching, the Quran, the Sunnah, the practice, and the way that his companions understood it and practiced it. نعم في غيرها ليلها كنهارها. Yeah, so there's another narration which say night and day is the same for it. That means that path Rasulullah had left, you will always see it day and night. That is in good times, bad times, you always you find the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it doesn't matter if you're living in a country where true knowledge is oppressed. If you look for it, you'll find it. I grew up in Syria where the government were fighting the way of the Salaf. They wanted the people to either be non-religious or to follow all kind of innovation. The way of the Salaf was fought. If you brought any book that's related to anything in the Salaf, you'll be persecuted, go to prison. Still, people managed to bring these books, photocopy it. That's before the time people had PDF and stuff like this. Get hard copies and spread it around. If you look for true knowledge, you would find it. The books of Ibn Taymiyyah were banned in Syria. Because Ibn Taymiyyah mentioned Nusayriyin, Alawiyin, the ones ruling Syria, considered them worse than Christians and Jews. They say they hate the Muslims and they cause their killing worse than the Jews and Christians. So they banned his books. وتسميتهم طائفة منصورة من قوله تعالى لا تزال طائفة من أمتي ظاهرين حتى يأتي أمر الله وهم ظاهرون. وفي رواية لن يزال أمر هذه الأمة مستقيما حتى تقوم الساعة أو حتى يأتي أمر الله. There's a lot of narrations from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that there will always be a group of my ummah that they will always declare the truth, they will stay on it till the end of times. Their truth is always obvious, it's not hidden. It's not a secret sect, they don't have any secret meetings, they don't have any secret books. Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, the books are there. They don't say one thing from one group and say something else in front of another group. There's no tuqiyah here, they wouldn't lie to soul. So whatever you want to hear, they let you hear it. They say, oh, we don't declare Abu Bakr or Umar kafir, we respect them all and so on. In their meeting, they cuss them and they will never call any of their children Abu Bakr or Umar or Aisha or any of the Sahaba. So you'll see what will happen. The enemies of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah try to give them different names, Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. So when it comes to describing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah describes himself, Ar-Rahmanu ala al-Arshi istawa. Allah, the most merciful, settled over the throne. This is Aqidat Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. This is the faith. All the Sahaba say Allah settled over the throne. We don't know how. We cannot describe him. He's beyond description. End of story. Ahlul Bid'ah, they wanted to say, no. He just overcome it. He rules it. He doesn't settle on it. And they say whoever said settle on it is somebody who's almost like idol worshiper. They wanted to put a picture in their mind of a certain being in a certain description. So it's called them mushabbiha or jismiya. They say, oh, they're describing Allah with a certain body or certain description. Allah said that He hears and He sees, but there's nothing that resembles Him. So we cannot say, if we say Allah sees, that means right away He's got eyes like us. Or we say He hears, He has ears like us. Allah, His description, we know of it only what He told us. So whatever He described Himself with, whatever His Prophet described Him with, we believe it as is without making any resemblance to any of His creatures. The Shia, Rafida, they call Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah Nasiba, Al-Nawasib. There was a group in a certain historic time that nasabu Ahlul Bayt al-Ada. They hated Ali radiallahu anhu and his family because they were their rivals in ruling. So they start cursing them and encourage others to curse them. That was a historic period of time. Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah never approved their way. So there you had extremes. You had in one extreme people who considered Ali and his group were infallible, that they were divine, inspired, and so on, and Shia. There are people who hated them and cursed them. Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah respect the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam because they're his family, his descendants, his grandchildren, and so on. Every time we say, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. Allah have mercy on Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his family. So we respect them, but we don't elevate them to a divine level. At the same time, we don't disrespect them or curse them. So Nasiba were an extreme in one way, Shia that way. But the Shia wants to say everybody that doesn't follow their way is Nasiba.
The Shia, some of them, I know the Shia, they have many groups, but some of them they close to Sunnah.
Yeah, so we'll come to it inshallah, but in general, Shia means a group of or supporter of. Like when describing Musa, when he left Pharaoh and went to the city, he found a man from his Shia, from his people. That means he was one of the children of Israel. So somebody from your group or supporter, this is your Shia, your group. So the people who were supporting Ali was his group, but they didn't have different faith, they didn't have different practice. Just in the political disagreement at that time, they supported Ali to be the leader against the ones who didn't want to support him. It was a pure political disagreement. There's nothing beyond it. Then later on started getting more and more extremes, where people came to destroy Islam through them and started doubting the Sahaba, their knowledge, their practice, and they start innovating whatever they want. They claim that the descendants of Ali are all inspired, they're divine, their words are a new religion. And they are the ones who conveying it. So they wrote their own books and they came up with a different religion and practice than the teaching of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So they were the most extreme of Shia. Rafida, the most Shia were not Rafida. The Shia in Yemen are Zaydiyya. Shia Zaydiyya, they don't consider Abu Bakr and Umar kafir. They don't consider the Sahaba kafir, although they prefer that the leader will be from the descendants of Ali. So these are milder Shia, where they pray with people of Sunnah, they eat with them, they marry from them, and so on, because their faith isn't different. It was still concerning the leadership, the political. So that was the mainstream Shia. Now you have the extremists of Shia, the ones that Khomeini group practicing, claiming they are the Shia. They're considered Rafida, Imamiyya, Ithna Ashariya, Rafida. So they believe in 12 Imam, descendants of Ali, that they have special divine power. Some of them believe that they were given the power to control the universe, almost godlike thing. A lot of them believe Hussein died for their sins, almost like Christianity believe in Jesus. You see them on the day of Karbala when Hussein died, they go and beat themselves and bleed themselves and torture themselves because they did not support Al-Hussein, and they blame Sunnah nowadays for 1400 years ago somebody what they did. So these are the extremes of the extremes. Detailing some of the beliefs in Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah about matters of fate, al-Qadr, and matters of description of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His names and His characters and so on. And that's something we talked about before. So I'm not going to go through these details. What you're going to find in anybody that wants to innovate their way, the first thing they start attacking is the scholars, the respected leaders of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. So they start discrediting them, or they say, oh, they're just people who write hadith. They're people who only know fiqh about tahara, how to purify yourself and clean yourself. They don't have understanding of big matters about politics, about peace, about war, about this stuff. We are the people who know that, who understand that. And that's one way that you'll find people, most political parties that relates to Islam, they want to discredit the ulama and have their way. They say, yes, they are people of knowledge, they have PhDs, or they learned from scholars and so on, but they don't have understanding of the current situation, and their information is something that applied to generations before. It has no faith here. our understanding, we understand politics, we understand things, we're smarter than them, then we should be the one leading, not these old generation types of scholars. فأصول أهل السنة والجماعة التمسك بالكتاب والسنة وعدم التفريق بينهما وتحكيمهما والعمل بهما في كل ما يعرض لهم من قضايا العبادة وغيرها دون رد أو تأويل سواء كانت الأخبار الواردة عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم متواترة أو آحادا لا فرق فيها بعد صحتها وثبوتها. So one of the main characters of Al-Sunnah wal-Jama'ah, Quran, everybody agrees to it. When there's Quran, you follow it. There's no argument about it. But when it came to the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the people of innovation said, oh, we're going to only accept the hadith that is mutawatir, that's narrated by large groups of Sahaba, large groups of their followers and so on, to be beyond any doubt of mistakes or wrong. And they have no proof that this should be the way. Because we know Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to send one man to a whole nation, a whole group, a whole country, and convey the message of Islam to them. If that was the correct way, he would have sent 100 persons. They say, oh, you're one man, you might be mistaken. Maybe it's not 5 prayers, it's 4 prayers. You're telling us 5 prayers. You might have heard it wrong, or you're trying to make it hard for me. Or the zakah, you're asking us to pay this charity, or whatever. They say, oh, one man. Rasulullah, one man was accepted. So anything relates to religion, as long as it's authentic in the chain of narration, even there is at some point one person narrating it, it is acceptable. Ahlul Buddha, anyone with innovation, either they reject the hadith, they say, it doesn't make sense to me. If it doesn't make sense to me, I'm rejecting it. Or they say, well, it's only one person who narrated it, and he's a man, I'm a man, I'd rather follow my judgment rather than his judgment. والعمل بما ورد عن الصحابة في قضايا العقيدة والدين وغيرهما والسير على نهجهم وسننهم لأنهم أعرف بالحق من غيرهم. So the first thing, Quran and Sunnah, they follow it. The third one is whatever the Sahaba understood and practiced, they follow it, understand it, and practice it. So this way, when people come with something new, and you say, tell them, is this the way the Sahaba understood and practiced the religion? As we mentioned before, when people came about the innovation, about that the Quran is not a revelation, not a word of Allah, it's a creation of Allah. A lot of times for us, what's the difference? Is His word or His creation? Well, the ones who said His creation, they wanted to use their mind. They say, our mind is created, Quran is created, that means they're equal. We are responsible in front of Allah for our mind, to use our logic. We order to use logic. That means logic is more important than revelation. That's what they try to do, to cancel Quran by saying that Quran is created rather than revealed by sent, His words. And one of the way that the people, Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, was able to stop this innovation, he told them, this understanding, is that something known from before at the times of Rasulullah ﷺ and his companions, and they knew it and didn't tell anybody? Or they didn't know it, and now you, after 200, 300 years later, now you know something they didn't know? So that means either way you're wrong. If they knew it, they would have told us about it. Or you're saying they didn't know it, and you know it? No, that means your way is wrong. So this is the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, not only follow the book of Allah and the revelation of Rasulullah, the way the early generation understood it and practiced it. Because they had the source, they had the teacher. So you have a main students of the teacher, they're the best one to understand the teaching, rather than somebody come generation later and say, no, I'm going to do something different. ومن صفاتهم الوقوف عند مفاهيم النصوص وفهم دلالتها وعدم الخوض فيما لا مجال للعقل فيه. And then one of the main characters of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, when a revelation comes in matters that does not take logic into it. You take it as is. Give an example. You pray 5 times. Why you pray 5 times? Because this is Allah, the way He revealed it. Why early in the day you're praying 2 rak'ah and you want to wake up and go to work? End of the night you're tired, you're praying 4 rak'ah. Some people say, I'm just going to pray 2 rak'ah and sleep. Early morning pray 4 rak'ah, wake up and so. There's no part of logic here. Here is obedience and following. Why is heaven 7 heavens and not 2, not 3? Because the way Allah has created it. Why we give this amount? Why the woman has to obey her man and the man doesn't have to obey the woman? This is the way Allah created it. This is the way Allah wants it. So when matters that has no part of it of logic, deduction and so on, they take it as is. There are matters when logic and deduction is needed. When you have a new problem, you're flying in a plane, time for prayer. What are you going to do? The Sahaba did not have planes. Now it's time for you. The Salah will be gone. You might be flying for 8 hours, 10 hours. What are you going to do? So you're going to do deduction. He says sometimes prayer in a boat, they used to pray in the sea. So we're going to consider a sea ship same as airship. The same way they pray there, the same way we pray there. So this is the deduction that can be used later on. So when there is room for deduction and logic, use it. When there's a room for text only, with no deduction, take it as is. الإعراض عن البدع وعن أهلها فلا يجالسوهم ولا يسمع كلامهم بل يحذر منهم خصوصا من عرف منه بعناده واتباعه للهوى. And then when you see people of innovation, you don't sit with them, you don't argue with them, you don't listen to them, especially for those who are stubborn, fighting the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You know, certain people that have certain, it's like trying to argue with one of the people of the black turbans of the Shia, try to argue with them about sunnah. So they started fabricating hadith, they started attacking Abu Huraira and Aisha and the whole thing. You're gonna go anywhere with arguing with them. And we know a lot of ulama that tried that. Some of them, you see them, they have channels, either on satellite or on internet. And once they start discussing and arguing, a lot of time it ends up with cursing them and cussing them and saying bad words to them, the other groups, because they have no truth to fight them. So you stay away from people of innovation. ومن صفاتهم لزوم جماعة المسلمين ونبذ التفريق والتحذير من الفرقة. And one of it, the most important, that we try to stick together as Muslim. Try to avoid separation. And whatever, whether it's on race, nationality, language, whatever characters, we all want Muslims. For us, a Muslim from Indonesia is a brother to us. The same one as a Muslim from Nigeria, a Muslim from Brazil, a Muslim from Saudi Arabia. They're all Muslims. There's no separation between Muslims. Muslims are all one. And even if the leaders are different, so sometimes you see the leader of this country fighting a leader of this country, and all of a sudden you find the people of this country hating these people. So why you hate us? I remember sometimes when Hafiz al-Assad, he done the massacre of Tal al-Za'atar, and he killed a lot of the Palestinians in Lebanon. Some of the Palestinians, I was young, but they start arguing with my father about it. Say, why are you arguing with me? I'm not Hafiz al-Assad, I have nothing to do with his policies and so on. But the media is making it where it's their problem. This is the leader's problem. People between one another, they have no problem. You have a question, brother?
I wanted to ask about like some Muslims who always ask you, like, oh, which madhab are you following? Oh, are you a Shafi'i? Like, is that part of like dividing people as well, or like by labeling?
Yeah. So one of it, when Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, it doesn't matter which madhab you follow. So because the madhab, the 4 prominent madhab in Ahlus Sunnah, Hanafi, Shafi'i, Maliki, and Hanbali, All of them Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. And all of them, there are ways to understand the Sunnah of Rasulullah Sallallahu and practice it. There might be minor differences, but if somebody pray hand a little bit up or a little bit low, this is all from Rasulullah, the way they understood the hadith. So there's no disagreement. If you live in a country that is only one madhab prevalent, you're going to learn Islam through that one madhab, but you're not stubborn. If you see, you grew up where you go, when you prayer, knee first. This is the way you learned it. The hadith of Rasulullah, you go hands first. But if somebody going knee first, well, that's the way they understood the hadith, so they go knee first. Their salah still accepted. But once you know the sunnah of Rasulullah, you practice it for yourself, but your imam going knee down, you don't say, oh, he's mubtadi', I'm not going to pray behind him. Say, no, this is ijtihad, this is understanding of the text. He's trying to follow the same rules, but he reached a different conclusion. His conclusion is still acceptable. So that's why you're not stubborn, you're still trying to follow the sunnah. Most of us start with one madhab, because this is what we grow up. So in Egypt, you have Imam Shafi'i mostly, some Maliki. In Syria, they have Hanafi mostly, some Shafi'i and some Hanbali. In North Africa, Maghrib, Jazair, and so on, mostly Maliki. You go to India and Pakistan, mostly Hanafi. You go to Indonesia, mostly Shafi'i. So depending on the scholars they come, but they shouldn't be stubborn following only one madhab. I remember once I was making wudu and made masah ala jawrab, so you wipe on your socks. And some people of Hanafi, for them, they started kind of give me a harsh look. What am I doing? This is bid'ah. In their madhab, that masah al jawrab is bid'ah. It's not part of sunnah. But we have abundance of hadith about it. Make masah. So. But at the same time, I'm not going to argue with them. Say, that's your understanding. You don't want to do it, that's fine. Your wudu is accepted. I'm not going to argue about it. Inshallah, we'll stop here because time is getting late. Then if anybody has any general questions, we'll answer it, but I don't want to keep you too late here.
I have a question about the awrah for men.
Mm-hmm.
So usually I think it's mentioned it's from the belly button to the knees.
Yes.
Is that below the knees or above the knees? And the reason I'm asking is because sometimes like some people wear shorts in salah when they're standing, it's covering the knee, but during tashahhud it's like above the knee.
So prayer is different a little bit from outside prayer. Inside the prayer, the knees should be included and covered. Outside the prayer, if it happens, let's say somebody working or playing or so on, part of the knee showed, it is less of a problem. Covering it more is better. But was reported that Rasulullah sometimes was sitting and part of his knee was showing, or somebody might be riding on a horse or camel, part of it is showing. But Rasulullah ordered the man who was like half his thigh was showing, cover it up. So this is about, but in salah, it should make you best that it is covered. Allahu Akbar.
Yeah, this time, Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, we say, but if you want to follow even the Sunnah, the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, most of people they say, but they don't follow Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. So if you try to follow the Sunnah, they can give you a lot of names.
Yes.
They can give you different names. This one, I don't know where they bring, and another one also, if you fight two countries, you are not there, you are not in the politics, because if you say your country they fight, they hate you because of your country. This one, I know this is politics, 100% is politics, because I was national service for 10 years, I don't want to go back. But this one, what we have to do, how we have to to understand the people for Islam. But sometimes if you are, they tell you like that, you feel it, because some people they can hate Islam. They think they tell them Islam. Islam is out from this. This case is some is politics, some is even they have hizb even from inside Islam also. They follow the hizb. If you say something, they will give you some name. They will give you maybe your.
And that's
Allah.
So it comes to ignorance. Most of them are part of ignorance, where they kind of try to think the only one holding the truth, especially political parties or certain sheikh one way, and he says he claims the truth, his followers have the truth, everybody else is wrong. And you never see anybody from Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah claiming that. You never see Imam Abu Hanifa saying, my way is right, Shafi'i is wrong, Maliki is wrong. They came after him. But there's other ulama his time, he never discredited them. And Imam Malik, when he wrote his book Al-Muwatta, it was one of the early authentic books of hadith. And he put a lot of fiqhi things in it. When the Abbasi Khilafah, they wanted to make it the official book of Islam. He said, no, don't make it. Don't compel others to follow my opinion. This is my ijtihad, this is the best of my knowledge. But the other people who have other ways, they might be better than mine. So don't force people on my way. So that's the difference. The scholar ones, they say, this is the best of my ability, the truth. There are certain clear texts nobody argue about. But the interpretation of a text, or the authenticity of it, especially in the hadith, so it might reach somebody through a weak chain of narration and will not accept it. Another alim find a better chain of narration, he got it, and it was acceptable for him. So that stubbornness is what is prohibited. When we read the book of Imam Tahawi, Al-Aqidah Tahawiyya, he was mentioning once he was Hanafi, but sometimes when people ask him about certain fiqh ruling, he says about another alim, say, but this is not the Hanafi way. He said, yeah, but this is the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. ولا يتعصب إلا لا يقلد إلا عصبي أو غبي. Say the only people who are stubborn to only follow one way, somebody who's a fanatic or stupid. So you shouldn't be stubborn. You follow a alim, but at the same time understanding nobody has the whole truth except Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because he had it directly coming from Allah. Everybody else, they had pieces of information. The Sahaba has a lot of it, but even the Sahaba, there wasn't one person that hold the truth. Rasulullah say, "Alaykum bisunnati wa sunnati al-khulafa al-rashidin al-mahdiyyin." You follow my way and the way of my successors, all of them. Because he didn't say you follow only Abu Bakr, or follow only Umar, or Uthman, or Ali. Because they're still human, they can make mistakes. But the groups of Sahaba, group of ulama, they do mistakes. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has protected their ummah from having consensus on what is wrong. So you're not going to find a group of, gather all the knowledgeable people in Islam and they all declare something that is false. That's why the sources of legislation in Islam is Quran, Sunnah, and Ijma'. So the Book of Allah, the way of Rasulullah, and the consensus of the knowledgeable ones. So the knowledgeable ones are the Sahaba and those who follow them. Later on, because we have so much expansion of people and so much, it's hard nowadays to reach a consensus, but you find in certain matters that people are reaching such a consensus. I give an example about nowadays like organ donation. More and more ulama saying it is permissible. If you're talking about 40, 50 years ago, most ulama against it. You see, you're not allowed to donate your organs live or dead, and you're not allowed to take from a dead person or another person organ. Nowadays, more and more ulama, when their meetings, knowledgeable ones, are saying they put conditions for it. Selling organs is prohibited. You don't own your body that you can sell it. So this is totally prohibited. Donating it without harm to the donor, a lot of them are allowing it. So somebody has 2 kidneys, his father needs a kidney, he's donating it to his father. They're saying, as long as doctors say that he's safe, then it is allowed. And for the dead person to donate their organs, say, when I'm dead, let people use my heart, my kidney, my liver, my lungs, whatever is permissible, I allow it. I wouldn't say it's a consensus yet, but you see more people, more and more, the more meetings you hear, you see more people leaning towards it, because there's a lot of saving of human lives for it. I'm still on the fence myself, being a doctor and interested in knowledge. in finding which way to go. I wouldn't do it myself because I still feel there's some prohibition about it, but people want to do it, I wouldn't prohibit them because, again, we have more knowledgeable people permitting it. So that's what I say, it's your ijtihad understanding it. There's no consensus here. So there are certain matters you'll find consensus in, and certain matters that you'll find that people still have their own interpretation, as long as the methodology of the interpretation is the correct one. That is, you following, trying your best to find what Allah wants from you. What is the closest text from Quran and Sunnah? What is the closest interpretation to an incident close to what you have? And you feel if you're at time of Rasulullah, you ask him that this is the answer you get, then even if you get it wrong, you still be rewarded because you went through the right channel. The wrong way of doing it is first making a decision, then trying to justify it. So somebody's saying, oh, I think taking loans from the bank is good for the economy. So interest should be allowed. And start looking in the text that would allow it one way or another, twisting the orders of Allah so he can justify a ruling that he put in his mind. The correct way is saying, I want to find what is the correct way. You look at the text, look at the ulama and reach it, not conclusion and try to prove your conclusion. So even if one get it right, but his intention is wrong, he will be responsible for that. Allahu A'lam.
بالنسبة للإجماع هذا في حالة عدم ثبوت دليل في القرآن والسنة. نريد أن نذهب للإجماع.
نعم، بس الإجماع لا يجمع الأمة على شيء يخالف القرآن والسنة.
لكن ذكرنا الآن مثلا أنه في هذه الحالة بعض العلماء مؤخرا صاروا يعني يحاولون يعني سماح بأشياء كانت يعني في سابقا يعني مرفوضة حتى نكون حذرين بالله مرفوضة من أغلبية العلماء. الآن الأغلبية صاروا مثلا قائلين أنهم يسمحون به.
نعم، بل لأنها لا تعارض نصا صريحا صحيحا. يعني ذكرنا مسألة الطلاق في الثلاثة تقع واحدة أم ثالثة. قدام العلماء على أنها ثلاث تقع ثلاث. معظم المعاصرين اتبعوا فيها اجتهاد ابن تيمية على أنها تقع واحدة، لأنها لا تعارض نصا أنه الطلاق الثلاث يقع في واحدة، تعارض اجتهادا لعمر رضي الله عنه وعمل كثير من القدامى، لكن لا تعارض نصا أصيلا. So he's saying here that the consensus of the ulama, as long as it doesn't contradict a clear text from Quran and Sunnah, and this is correct. We said that this nation, this ummah, Allah has protected it from doing something wrong. So it will never contradict a clear text of Quran and Sunnah. There are certain understanding practices that might change. As we said, when people divorce up to 3 times, a man can divorce his wife. It was never a time of Sahaba of Rasulullah ﷺ, somebody says to his wife that she's divorced 3 times in one sitting. Never happened. But time of Umar, people start doing it. He hits his wife, he warns her, I'm not going to only divorce you once, I'm going to divorce you 3 times. And she started doing it and say, you're divorced 3 times. And now she divorced 3 times, he is not allowed to marry her again. And they're stuck. And they come to Umar and say, okay, you're playing with the orders of Allah. Whoever say 3 times, I'm going to compel him to 3 times. And a lot of the ulama went with that ruling. But nowadays, most of the scholars nowadays saying there is no text about it. This is the understanding of Umar. He wanted to discipline people who are mocking their religion. A lot of ulama say no, a divorce only once. The way Allah put it, you divorce one, allowed to bring her again. Then it happens, second divorce, bring her again. Third divorce, that's permanent. But it's not meant in one time, because there should be a chance for fixing it. And that's what we have. But it doesn't contradict a text. Wallahu a'lam. So inshallah, استغفر سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب